The grid is forming for race 2 of the GT4 European Series here at Brands Hatch. We had a very lively first race with incidents and some great battling going on, and we look forward now from a different grid set in the truncated second qualifying session that ran almost up to the curfew last night before the red flag came out, to another exciting race. 10 minutes to go before the formation lap gets underway, and the grid, as I say, is starting to take shape in anticipation of another 60 minutes of racing, with mandatory pit stops that come between the 25th and 35th minute of the race and must last for 98 seconds. The grid formed with, on pole position, double winner at Monza, Dan Mackay, the British driver with the McLaren. And let's see how he fares in this second race, having been second in race 1 that was won, sorry, third in race 1 I should say, which was won by the KTM of Patrick Niederhauser and Reinhard Koffler. On pole position, Dan Mackay and Benjamin Lessen. It will be Dan Mackay who starts in that car. We'll see how he fares over the course of the first stint. The drivers that effectively finished race 1 start race 2, and Dan Mackay and Jan Kissiel then are at the front of the grid. David Addison trackside. We're looking down onto the grid from the top of the grandstand, where there is one gap that is apparent, and that looks like it's the Bullet Racing Mercedes that was rather badly damaged in race 1 of the day. That is not going to be there, understandably. Jan Kissiel is, however, there on the outside of the front row of the grid, and that is another car certainly capable of pitching for race honours. Jan Kissiel sharing with former GT4 European champion Max Kobold. But before we get underway, let's hear from one or two of the drivers. Benjamin Lessen, for example, who will start on the front of the grid with Dan Mackay, his co-driver, is with our reporter, Dakota Jane.
Ben, not as sunny as the first grid was, but the second grid, you're starting on pole. What a great position to be starting in. How do you feel about taking 32 GT4 cars behind you into Paddock Bend?
Yeah, I think the most important for us is going to be to score points. So with Daniel, we have the rules to don't take any risks. That's the main point. Don't take any risk, because here the track is really tricky, not easy to drive, especially for 1 hour when the tire is going down in degradation. So yeah, it's going to be important to score points and go easy.
Now you score points in the first race, so the second race I'm guessing you're hoping to win, yes?
Yeah, so now we just made third, so now, yeah, if we can make it the win, for sure we will gonna do, but yeah, we will see. Anyone
you got your eye on as competition goes?
No, for me, I'm not worried about them.
Big gulp as you said that. Good luck.
So Benjamin Lessen walks away, ready to oversee what's going on the grid with his car that Dan Mackay will start. So it's Dan Mackay, in fairness, that's got 30-plus GT cars behind him. Mark Basseng, GT1 world champion, sharing with Philip Baetke, the bespectacled driver sat by the side of the car. Philip, very much a club racer that's graduated to GT4 and enjoying his racing. See how he gets on over the course of this 1 hour race. Mark Basseng dropped away towards the end of the opening race of the day. They've had very limited turnaround time between races. That was a car that led the first part of race 1 when Florian Thomas was driving it. Akil Ravindra brought the car home in second spot, and on the outside of row 1 is the Lippert Mercedes, which is shared by Max Kobold.
Max, now you're starting on the front row of the grid, another good place to be. Maybe not quite in pole position, but still a good place to be. Last year you were the one to watch out for. This year, could you be the one to watch out for again?
That is the plan, yeah. Yeah, last year was very good with the BMW. Now with AMG, which I think for this track it's a little bit better. And yeah, the first race was not bad. It's difficult with this car to attack. We lose some low-end power, but in the corner we are very, very strong. So if Jan has a good start and can get P1 from the McLaren, I think it will be a good race.
Is there anything you're particularly worried about at the moment?
Not too many safety cars, I hope, but probably will be. But yeah, just stay out of the trouble and hopefully finish P1 now.
Let's see how it goes. Good luck.
So Max Kobold switching from, as he says, the BMW to the Mercedes for this year. Will be certainly one to watch over the course of the second stint. Now this is definitely a man to watch. Nikolai Müller-Madsen needs to, if you like, sort out his now blotted copybook, because he was chasing for second place in the first race, got the position, ran wide, off the road, up against the barrier, damaged car, game over. So Nikolai Müller-Madsen last year's Silver Cup champion, needs to try and amend all of that by taking a good result here. He will start 5th on the grid, and then lining up alongside is the car of Marcus Pavarud that came out on top in the Pro-Am competition earlier on in the day. Florian Thomas is now with Dakota.
Florian, now in race 1, you had your win absolutely stripped from you. This race is going to be different, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. I don't like to watch the start when I'm not starting. So, yeah, he will do a good job. I'm sure he will do a good job. The car is amazing. It feels amazing. The track is amazing. Yeah, obviously with the English brand on an English track, that's the most greatest feeling at all. Yeah.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Good luck for the race. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Florian Thomas, just to clarify, he didn't have a penalty that stripped the win. He led his stint, but the car was jumped on the pit stop. So that's why the car ended up having led early on, not winning the race. Julien Darras starts in 007, the Aston Martin of the Street Art Racing team. And as ever, that is going to be a car well worth watching. The back of the grid has Phil Hill's KTM with the front bodywork pushed up. That's the car that was one of the causes of a red flag yesterday because it fell off the road, unfortunately, and caused a stoppage by going off up at Druids. But the cars then now all in place, and the one gap on the grid is where we have the hole caused by the very, very badly damaged Mercedes from Bullet Racing's camp. Oleg Shahrukh crashed the car in race 1. He ran wide out of Clark Curve, came across the road up against the wall very heavily, and that brought out a lengthy safety car period. So it's Dan Mackay who is on pole position, Silver Cup pole sitter, and just also to make a point that the race 1 winning car, they kept the race win, has been given a 10-place grid drop going into this race for contact with another car. An impromptu air display coming up. Of course, Brands Hatch close to Biggin Hill, but let's have a walk down the grid, have a look at who's who, where Dan Mackay starts on pole position in the McLaren of Franz Verschuur's team, and it's going to be Jan Kisiel that goes first in the yellow Mercedes alongside. Another Mercedes on row 2. It's started by Mark Basseng, the red Aston Martin, the big highlighter pen, that of Akhil Ravindra. Row 3, Nikolai Müller-Madsen's Audi, the yellow Mercedes of Marcus Pavarud alongside, and then the white Aston 007 is Julien Darras, number 8 BMW Ricardo van der Ende. On row 5 there is Andy Merrick in the Bullet Racing Mercedes and Gabriele Piana's BMW. Next on the grid there is Jeremy Sahi's Aston Martin, and a gap where number 36 Alpine is not to be found. There's Will Moore's Aston Martin next. Alongside him is Glenn Van Paris in the very attractive 718 iteration of the Porsche Cayman. Reinhard Koffler starts number 16 KTM, the race 1 winners, with Mark van der Aar's BMW alongside. Dominic Schrammel comes next alongside David Loget. Then another gap because Sohail Ayari is missing. He crashed in the qualifying session yesterday. There is Barschauten, number 31 there. Another gap where we don't have Ivan Lukasevich, but we do have Gregoire de Moustier in the Alpine number 35. Tom Wood is next, the Derby driver in the Academy Motorsport Aston, third in class in race 1. 71 is Massimiliano Tresoldi in the BMW M4. Similar car next on the grid, Alec Udell, and alongside it's another BMW of the Turkish driver Ibrahim Okyar, the pale blue car. 44 is Matt George in the older spec Aston Martin that runs in the invitation class, and then it is Gabi Ulli alongside in the McLaren. On the next row of the grid, Benjamin Mazatis in a Porsche damaged in race 1, alongside him Guillaume Dumaret in the Mercedes he shares with Jean Gloria. Clement Seiler is next as a class winner in race 1, and alongside him is Luc Ibanez in the Ginetta. And then at the back of the grid is Phil Hill, the German driver in the KTM that he shares with Mads Siljehaug. So that is the grid, good to go. And so Dan Mackay, the man lining up on pole position, third in the opening race, alongside the Kisiel Cobalt Mercedes that was fourth in race 1. On the second row of the grid, Mark Basseng, who, as I said early on, fell a long, long way down the order towards the end of that race, out of contention. But the Aston Martin on the outside of that row, the car that finished second in race 1. And the retirement from race 1 was the Nikolai Müller-Madsen Audi that starts next on the grid. And then 6th, the Pro-Am winners, 7th overall early on in the day, Luca Trefts and Marcus Pavarud, who will do the first stint. So the safety car peels away, the pace car as it is effectively now, and the drivers set off in pursuit, ready for the start of this second GT4 European Series race here at Brands Hatch. The grid slightly down, inevitably, after the rigours of the first race. The pit stop time of 98 seconds is going to be worth monitoring because there is this new TM Performance Pit Stop Award. And we had some excellent pit work going on in the first race. The Simon Knapp and Ali Udal BMW was just a 1/10 of a second over that 98 seconds, which was very, very well timed indeed. So there you get a great view of the variety of Audi, Mercedes, Aston Martin, BMW, Alpine, McLaren, Ginetta, KTM, if I missed, Porsche, and the field pouring its way from Druids downhill here at Brands Hatch through Graham Hill Bend onto Cooper Straight, and 1 hour of racing set to get underway. The GT4 class then, which has finally taken off. It was a bit of a slow burn for many, many seasons, but as soon as manufacturers realised there was a market and started building turnkey race cars rather than tuners trying to take a car and make it into a racer, and it was a bit like glorified production sports car racing in its infancy. It's a different category now, but very professional indeed, and the likes of Alpine and KTM and Ginetta going up against the bigger names, all adding to the drama. BMW's M4, Mercedes AMG GT4 in the mix, as well as the cars come on with the Grand Prix loop. And there is number 9, so Sohail Ayari starting from the pit lane. Missed the pit lane opening, but Sohail Ayari is going to start from the pit road. In fact, he might even be allowed, no, not out to join the back of the grid. He will start from the pits when everyone has gone into Paddock Hill Bend. That could be quite a shrewd move, actually, because given how crowded a house it can be into Paddock, he might be behind all the accidents. Bas Linders, who used to race in the British Formula Ford Championship, raced here many, many times in the 90s. We've seen him as the player manager at Mark VDS Racing. He's moved from team to team, but now he's operating the Pro Sport Performance squad, and very experienced racer and team manager. And in fact, on occasions, he's been was it the Total 24 Hours of Spa last year, driving standards advisor as well to the Blancpain endurance races. So the cars come up from Westfield. The Ecris BMW, you saw Ricardo van der Ende doing the first stint. Co-driver Ewan Mackay will go second, and everybody now, as they come through Stirling, will start to get themselves in the side-by-side formation, ready for the rolling start. 007 is Darras, Julian Darras, and he puts the car onto the inside of the road. Behind him, number 33, Andy Merrick in the Bullet Racing Mercedes, Stephen Patrick's car. Why Bullet Racing? Because Stephen Patrick loves the Steve McQueen movie. Simple as that. So you think of a name for a team, what's wrong with that? And Andy Merrick hopefully will be off like a shot to gain ground from where he starts on the 5th row of the grid then, as the cars come into Clark Curve. The McLaren of Dan Mackay on pole position. Mark Messing, number 13, on his toes on the 2nd row of the grid. Nikolai Moller-Madsen, number 1 in the Audi on the 3rd row, also want to watch off the start. So we're about to go racing. It's a slightly thinner grid with the travails of race 1, but enough to give us a very lively hour of the GT4 European Series at Brands Hatch. The cars come up towards the timing line. If the race director is happy, the lights will change. The race gets underway now. Nikolai Moller-Madsen in the red Audi goes diving up on the inside line. He has to breathe in, gets a bit of a squeeze, brakes, almost gets tapped in the tail there by Julian Darras. Side by side for the race lead. Jan Kissil round the outside has the advantage. Grabs the race lead. Akhil Rabindra almost goes straight on in the Aston. He's lost 1 place, 2 places, 3, still tumbling, and he gets turned around at the top of the hill. Rabindra spins. Also off the road, I think, was Gabriele Piana's BMW, which is back on the road. And astonishingly enough, only those two had the incident and have ended up back in the race, although Piana, I fear, has got a puncture or certainly some damage because that car has slowed right down. Jan Kissil leads the way. Second is Dan Mackay. Out of the pit lane. Oh, there is drama going into Surtees there. We saw one car get tagged sideways. Meantime, the leader stormed downhill. Jan Kissil leads the way. Second, it's Dan Mackay. Third, then, a very good start by Ricardo van der Ende. Now, where was he on the grid? He was on the 4th row. In 4th place, it's Moller-Madsen. Mark Messing has gone backwards against expectations. 6th is Julian Darras, going nicely in the 007 Aston Martin. There he is. We've seen him racing BMWs in the Blancpain Endurance Series years back. Regular GT4 driver in more recent time. Aston Martin with damage there. Look, the bonnet peeling up on the car as through goes Tom Wood. So that's the sister car from Academy Motorsport by the look of it, which would be the Will Moore car, I think, has picked up some damage early on. So a frantic first lap, but Jan Kissil in the Grunt & Go Mercedes will lead them at the end of lap 1. Into Clark Curve he comes there. Look, lots of damage at the front of number 62. So it is Will Moore, but he's staying out for the moment. Kissil leads them across the timing line. So the Mercedes is just ahead of Dan Mackay, who has got the massively experienced and successful Ricardo van der Ende in the Ecris BMW behind him, and he goes wide, and here comes Moller-Madsen up the inside line. Gets a face full of the M4, has to back out of that. He tries the outside line at Druids instead. Van der Ende keeping Muller Madsen at bay. Mark Marcin gets 5th, 6th was Julian Darrow, and they went across the line. But the top 2 are escaping, and Van der Ende now sticks out his elbows and tries to keep everybody else at bay as they come onto Cooper Straight once more. KTM there, Reinhard Koffler, number 16, the race 1 winning car, under attack. Diving up towards 30s, he's on the inside, he's on the curb as well as he tries to hustle up the inside line of 31, which is Bas Rutten, but he can't really make a move there. So the race leaders drop downhill towards Hawthorns, and Jan Kisiel from Dan Mackay at the end of lap 1, 7/10 of a second. Koffler makes his move on the inside line there. The KTM tries to get the run on the Mercedes. Big engine Merc, little 2-litre turbo KTM tries to scuttle up the inside, can't do it. The incident between Rabindra and Piana is under investigation from Druids on the opening lap, and there is Gabriele Piana. So irrespective of what the outcome is from the steward's room, he's out of the race with whatever that damage is. It's more than a punctured tyre, clearly. And there also with plenty of damage is Will Moore's Aston Martin. Just wondering whether at some point that might not be a meatball flag, the black and orange mechanical warning flag, to get him into the pit lane, because the scrutineers will not be happy about that, I wouldn't have thought. The danger is if the air gets under it, rips it off, it flies into the path of another car. Leaders come through. Jan Kisiel it is that leads the pack then. Dan Mackay in 2nd spot. Ricardo van der Ende runs 3rd, and there is the Aston, look, coming down the pit road. So the message has got through. Will Moore bails, and they'll put as much tank tape as they've got on that car. Through paddock comes this next battle pack. The BMW of Mark van der Aar ahead of Glenn van Parijs with the Porsche. Behind him is Bas Rutten, then it's Koffler up the inside line goes Tom Wood in the Aston Martin, the British driver that shares with Fiona James. Down the hill, he's on the tail of the race 1 winner, breaks hard, turns left onto Cooper Straight. Andy Merrick there, number 33, running in 7th, going after Julian Darrow and the Academy team, Academy Motorsport, Matt Nicol-Jones squad, hard at work. Drop the bonnet down, tape it up, send him out. They've had a look at the car. As long as the bodywork stays where it's meant to be, then all good. Koffler under attack here, but he's got the Aston of Tom Wood looking for a way by. Tom Wood illustrating his ability here because he's on the tail of the man that won the opening race. He's up the inside line, still can't quite find a way past the KTM, which is equally stuck. Look behind Bas Rutten in the yellow Mercedes, which in turn is getting a view of the Porsche Cayman. Replay of the start. Gabriele Piana in the BMW, you'll see, was very keen to get away. Now have a look at Muller Madsen in the red Audi. He goes to the inside line, and then the door closes, so he has to back out of that and lose his ground as others sweep round the outside of him. But then up at Druids, that's where Akhil Rabindra, having already gone wide, was the driver that got turned around. Akhil Rabindra there in the red Aston Martin on the outside line is being given a drive-through penalty for an avoidable collision. So as they get to Druids, look, Rabindra has gone wide, then he cuts across into the path of Piana and gets turned around. He's in the race still, albeit quite a long way back. Gabriele Piana with damage out of the race. Something broke on the impact, clearly. Rabindra is serving the drive-through now in the race being led by Jan Kisiel with, in 2nd place, Dan Mackay. The gap is half a second. Ricardo van der Ende 3rd, having done the fastest lap of the race, and down the pit lane there goes Akhil Rabindra. So this is not going to be the result that he and Florian Thomas wanted, because the car's now got a lot of work to do. Here are the leaders, and what have we got? 5 in a line, effectively. That takes you down to Mark Marcin in 5th place. Kisiel, Mackay, van der Ende, Muller Madsen, Baseng. In other words, Mercedes, McLaren, BMW, Audi and Mercedes. The KTM of Reinhard Koffler sandwiched between the big bangers here. He's got a Mercedes ahead, he's got an Aston Martin behind him, and he's up the inside of the Mercedes. Once again, Bas Rutten moves across and blocks in, covers the line. To the inside line again goes Tom Wood, going into Westfield. Wood in turn is under attack from Jeremy Sarhi, next in the queue. And the car's turned out of the left-hander at Sterling. Now that fight looking at is for 3rd place. Van der Ende versus Muller Madsen. Under the bridge, down through clearways, into Clark Curve they come. Ricardo van der Ende, who will give way to Ewan Mackay, who is the brother of the man in 2nd place, Dan Mackay. And have a look at this here, because Glenn van Parijs is about to lose out. Koffler up the inside, Wood up the inside of Schouten as well. Real old sword out coming through Clark Curve. So the KTM gains 1 place, so does the Aston Martin. Koffler gains 1, and therefore Wood gains 1 as well in the Aston. Schouten loses out, and so too does Glenn van Parijs, who drops back into 11th spot. Schouten to the outside line. Bas Rutten tries to go through, back up the place, but no, Tom Wood fends him off as they climb up towards Druids once more. This is lap 5. It's Bashrauten that goes wide at Druids this time, and he's under attack. Look, as they come down the hill, Jeremy Sari tries to go through, can't do it. In a straight line, number 26, Mark van der Aar, keeping the KTM at bay for the moment. It is still the fastest lap of the race now. Nikolai Müller-Madsen's Audi in his quest to get past Ricardo van der Ende. So Nikolai trying to make amends for what happened in the earlier race there. Van der Ende comes up now to attack Dan Mackay. That's for second. And up front, Jan Kisiel is leading, but he's not storming away, is he? He leads by 0.8 of a second, but it's a slender gap still. Müller-Madsen comes back to have a go at Van der Ende. Van der Ende has dropped back a couple of lengths from Dan Mackay as they climb up through Sheen Curve once more. And Jan Kisiel still leading the way then, the former Clio and Volkswagen racer. Yasin Kisiel, to give him his full name, Jan as he's known. And after spells in the Audi TT Cup, now a very rapid GT4 racer. Dives into Clark Curve, the race-leading Mercedes then, with the Lippert Motorsports Squad. Lippert that made its name really in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, but goes well in GT4 preparation as well. Car over the timing line, and the gap Kisiel to Mackay was 0.8. The gap is now 0.8. But Mackay, look, has got a right LQ behind him. Van der Ende is next. In fourth place, it's Müller-Madsen. Fifth is Basseng. Sixth is Darras. Seventh is Merrick. Eighth is Pavarud. Ninth is Van der Aar. And 10th is Koffler. So through they turn. This is the climb up now to Druids. And 48 is the Alpine of David Loger that was on pole position within the AM class. And if you take pole position in your class, you get one of the Satina watches on the podium at the end. So the cars now turn through the left-hander at Surtees onto the Grand Prix loop once more. This is lap number 6. Fastest lap of the race, interestingly, Reinhard Koffler now in the KTM. So Koffler, quickest lap of the race. The field hustles down into Hawthorne through the right. But now it does look as though Mackay is just having to defend a little bit more, and that means that the leader, Jan Kisiel, is getting away. Into the right of Hawthorne's track limit warning. First of them comes to Glenn van Parijs in the Cayman about track limit abuse. There is Koffler. Behind him is the battle between now the BMW of Alec Udell and Tom Wood's Aston Martin. And was that a rather smoky KTM? It is, isn't it? That's got a problem. And that's smoke that is mechanical smoke rather than bodywork against a tyre by the look of it. Is it putting anything on the road? Question 1. How long can it last? Is question 2. But again, that could well be that the officials want to have a look at that KTM and monitor what's coming out of the back of it. Ooh, sideways. Is that on his own oil, maybe? Koffler carries on. But it could be that life is getting rather slippery behind, and if you were following closely, you might end up with a screen full of liquid, and that's not going to help. So the race leader remains Jan Kisiel, and Reinhard Koffler has gone by them, running in 9th place. That last lap was a 1:33.1. His best is a 32.8, so the pace is comparable. A challenge is being made there. Look, number 25, Alec Udell in 13th place. The leader comes onto Cooper Straight now, a second to the good. And I'm keeping an eye on this KTM to see what develops next, whether that smoke is going to get worse and worse. The leaders turn for the 7th time onto the Grand Prix extension. Number 1 goes through in 4th place, Nikolai Müller-Madsen. And Ricardo van der Ende knows exactly where to put the Eckerys BMW to keep him at bay. The M4 running in 3rd place at the moment. Dan Mackay turns the Equipe Vasseur McLaren out of the right-hander there of Hawthorne's along that short straight towards Westfield. And down from Legends Racing into Carrera Cup GB, into British GT, into European GT4, going nicely. The climb uphill now. So Van der Ende running 3rd, the Eckerys Motorsport run BMW. Brakes hard, swings into the left-hander. And the cars now pour their way into Clark Curve. A little bit wide Müller-Madsen up the curve that time. But you've still got really the leading, what, 7 in a line, I suspect, into Clark Curve. The one that's fallen off the back ever so slightly is Pavarud. In terms of classes, Pro-Am being led by Marc Basseng at the moment. 2nd Pro-Am is Andy Merrick, 3rd is Marcus Pavarud. And at the AMs, it's David Loger's Alpine down in 20th, leading the category. The leaders go by, the gap's down fractionally to 9/10 of a second. How's the puffing KTM getting on? Reinhard Koffler is still in 9th place, and in fact he's just done the fastest lap of the race. So smoke or no, it's the quickest car on the track. Marc Basseng goes downhill. Turns into Graham Hill Bend on Cooper Straight once again. The cars now accelerate along that straight towards Surtees. Andy Merrick in the Mercedes inching up onto the back of Julien Darras for 6th position there. The number 007 Street Art Racing Aston Martin. There it is, just ahead. The Vantage AMR GT4 fending off the Mercedes AMG GT4. race leaders work. Lap 8 here. So where's the next battle going to come from? Up front, Kisiel fending off the challenge of Dan Mackay, at least for the moment. And there, car number 33, Andy Merrick, turns now into the right-hander of Westfield. Now, he's not really under attack, so in theory he should be able to concentrate all his efforts onto the rear of the Aston of Julian Darrat. He's clear enough of Marcus Pavarud. Mercedes swings through Sheen into Sterling's through that left-hander. Road drops downhill slightly. You can see the banking on that corner almost as the cars come through into clearways now. Jan Kisiel, race leader. To the eye, it looks like Dan Mackay is a little bit nearer. Let's see where the eyes and timing screens correlate. Up towards the line comes Kisiel then. 9/10 of a second it was. And this time, as the beams are broken, it's down to 6/10 of a second. So yes, Dan Mackay is that little bit nearer. In third place, it's Van der Ende, Ricardo Van der Ende in the BMW. So he's fallen back off the rear of the McLaren. The 570S running in third place. Fourth is Nikolai Molle-Madsen. There he goes. And then it's Bassett fifth and Darrat in sixth spot as they drop downhill once again. So Jan Kisiel starting to come under a little bit more attack now from Daniel Mackay. Ricardo Van der Ende, who is another graduate of the British Formula Ford scene going back many years, comes through in third spot in the BMW. And Reinhard Koffler, still with the fastest lap of the race to his credit, still going. And his next target is Marcus Pavarud's Mercedes. Just looking at lap times, could Koffler get up with him? He's 11/10 back and he's quicker in sectors. So despite that fear of smoke early on for the KTM, the pace is still good. There is Bas Schraubten with Jeremy Sahi behind him. That's the 13th and 14th places. Dominic Schramel's Mercedes is next, and then Matty George in the green and black old spec Aston Martin. Runs in the invitation class because it's an older car, but in the hands of Matt George, it doesn't matter, it just flies. Nikolai Molle-Madsen doing what he did in race 1, hooking a wheel onto the dirt. That was his undoing as the leader comes out of Sterling's, and look what's happening for second and third and fourth. They've all bunched up again. Mackay caught once more by Van der Ende. Koffler, another absolute best in the middle sector. There is Van der Ende, third as he turns out of Clark Curve up towards the timing line once more. And Nikolai Molle-Madsen frustrated that he still can't work out how to get past the BMW. The leader goes by. The gap was 6/10 of a second on the last lap. He's back up to a second again as Mackay's had to go defensive. Van der Ende still third, Molle-Madsen fourth. And then Mark Basseng in fifth, falling away despite his ability, despite the car's pace. He's not being able to live with the leading quartet here. Through they turn, and now on to the Cooper Straight section of the circuit. Into the left-hander, and now on to the Grand Prix loop once more. Van der Ende going defensive, so that releases Dan Mackay, at least for the moment. What can he do about race leader Jan Kisiel? That's Koffler, and he's about to make his move against Pavarud. This is for 8th place. The KTM versus the Mercedes, two completely different types of GT4 car. And look, all the talk, all the grunt of the Mercedes fencing off the KTM. But now it's through the twiddly bits where Koffler should be able to make a move back. And Koffler is a very committed driver, as we saw in race 1. Can't make a move at Westfield. They bounce their way through that bumpy corner. Turn through and now power their way once again into Sheen Curve. Nose to tail out of Sterling, so this battle for 8th and 9th overall. Koffler clear of Tom Wood, who is in 10th place. Alec Udell has made good progress up into 11th after a not great grid position. But Reinhard Koffler now tries to line up to see whether he can have a go on the brakes, going into paddock. Marcus Pavarud, former touring car racer, comes over the line. Pro-Am winner in race 1. Through they turn, and at the end of the straight, Koffler is too far back, so there's no chance there to make the move. He's good through the corners. Very quick through paddock. That might give him the run up the hill towards Druids now. Is there an opportunity to make a move there? Answer, no. Through the hairpin, down the hill they drop. Meantime, Andy Merritt still on the tail there of Julian Darrat in the white Aston Martin. And Koffler has a look to the inside. There's a gap. If he's very, very, very late on the brakes, he's going to do it, and he does go through. Reinhard Koffler goes through and goes a little bit wide, and that forces Pavarud off his stride as well. But Reinhard Koffler has done it. He's gone 8th. That was brave stuff. Tom Wood kicks up the dirt in the background. But Reinhard Koffler gains a place. Remember, he's making amends for a 10-place grid drop caused by the car making contact with another in race 1. There, Mackay versus Van der Ende. The change is imminent, I think. Yes, because Van der Ende has got the inside line coming out of Westfield and finally finds the gap, up the curb, goes through. The BMW is ahead of the McLaren, or is it? Dan Mackay fights back on the inside, tries to force an error, and the leader has just gone wide as well, and there's contact there as Molle Madsen tags the back of the McLaren, so he's going for third place. Van der Ende is pulling away. Dan Mackay is down to third, Nicolai Molle Madsen fourth as they dive through Clark Curve this time. The Audi gets the tighter line, gets up the inside, but doesn't have the run out of the corner. The McLaren hangs on to third, but look, Van der Ende now, he's gained that place, he's away and gone. So Dan Mackay doing what he had to do, defend the place, comes through paddock, very wide again. Is that going to lose him the momentum? Nicolai Molle Madsen tries to work out exactly where the gap is going to be, but he hasn't found it yet. Here's the replay of this little bit of contact coming out of the corner. So you see Nicolai Molle Madsen tries to quickly tighten the line, and he doesn't do it in time, and just that little tiny brush as the cars go for the same bit of track space. That part of the circuit, with all the mud being brought onto it, it's a bit more rally stage than race circuit. And there's a drive-through penalty going to Benjamin Mazetis for track limit abuse in the car that Nicky Leutwiler retired after contact in race 1. So not a happy day for the 21 Cayman. Andy Merrick goes through in 7th place, and now on to that short straight that takes you up towards Westfield, and still Andy Merrick staring at the back of the Aston Martin. Nice it might be, but it's not what he wants to be looking at for the entire race. Dominic Schrammel going through ahead of Matt George here. These two are 15th and 16th. Mercedes versus the older generation of GT4 Aston Martin, but Matt George charging along. The car shared by its owner, James Holder, who was one of the original founders of the Superdry clothing brand, and up through the approach to Stirling's they come. So can the green and black Aston make a move? Not there. Over the line, that's the race leader. We're about 6 minutes off the pit window opening, and Kisiel to Van der Ende now is the gap to monitor. It's 2 seconds. Line of cars all queued up behind. Mackay, Molle Madsen, Basseng, Darragh, Merrick. That takes you down to 7th place. 8th now is Koffler, 9th is Pavarud, 10th is Wood. And there, Dominic Schrammel keeping Matt George at bay. Matt's another of those very, very quick young British drivers that flies under the radar a little bit. Not blessed with a massive budget, but no matter what you put him in, he always goes well in it, and proving the point here. So Jan Kisiel will give that car over in the second stint to Max Kerbold, Ricardo van der Ende to Ewan Mackay, Dan Mackay to Benjamin Lesser. It's going to be a very interesting second stint to see how the relative pace of the drivers pans out. Andy Merrick, for example, in 7th place. Stephen Patrick, his co-driver. Stephen not as experienced and as quick as Andy. So that car you might expect to drop away, but other cars might conversely come into the equation. There for 3rd place, Nicolai Molle Madsen, still stuck behind Dan Mackay. Cedric Freiberghaus will take over number 1 Audi. And Benjamin Lesser, we know he's quick, and he'll take over the McLaren. So that car, I think, is still pretty well placed, and if they get a good pit stop as well, that's going to help. So a defensive Mackay almost being shoveled through the corner by Molle Madsen, and look, Mark Basseng is catching up as well. Down they come, heading towards Clark Curve. Brake hard, turn through. Molle Madsen's left the door open, has he? Not quite. Dan Mackay goes wide. Have a look at Basseng in the Mercedes, because all of a sudden he's back in the races. He comes up towards the timing line. The Mercedes, I would have thought, would have had the run in a straight line, but actually he loses a length against the Audi, the only Audi in the race, as they get to Paddock Hill Bend. They plunge through the corner. Mackay is still there just up the road ahead. Julien Darragh is defending from Merrick, and Koffler is up with them as well now. Down to Graham Hill Bend. The man, most likely, is Mark Basseng, because Molle Madsen goes a little bit wide. And Dan Mackay now, because he doesn't have to defend, look, he's away and gone. Suddenly, Nicolai Molle Madsen is having to go so defensive. Let's see what happens coming out of Surtees. Andy Merrick is under attack from Koffler. And Dan Mackay doing his best to get away. Molle Madsen being given a very tough time by Mark Basseng. GT1 world champion, Nürburgring 24 Hours winner. Philippe Baker will take over that car, who only began racing back in 2016. Started off in things like the 24-hour series. He's raced in the German club level Porsche series before coming into GT4 last year. The Supersport Porsche Cup, as it's called, was what he started off in, doing very well. And Mark Basseng has got a problem, because the car has gone missing from that queue. Where is he? There he is, Mark Basseng limping into sight. Has he got a puncture? Yes, he has. Marc Massen's got a puncture. And the car slowly will have to make its way to the pit lane, and all of this, frustratingly, is before the window opens. So he's going to have to pit for a new tyre and then pit again for the driver change. Marc Massen limping on. Now, what caused that? Was it contact or has he run over something? Either way, the SRO Motorsports Mercedes struggles on, and Marc Massen has got a problem, and it's a punctured tyre that's going to drop him way down the order as the leaders go by once more. Now that has put Moller Madsen back onto terms with Dan Mackay. There is Ewan Mackay, BRDC Rising Star, getting ready to take over from Ricardo van der Ende in the second-place BMW, and that second-place BMW is getting closer and closer. There's a drive-through penalty for Marcus Pavarud as well for track limit abuse, and there a challenge is being made on the inside. Koffler versus Merrick. Reinhard Koffler says, look, I'm coming through, don't care who you are, I'm coming by. And the KTM is up the inside, plays game. Koffler up now into 6th spot, and the Pro-Am winners from earlier on in the day now get this drive-through penalty for track limit abuse. Reinhard Koffler through Hawthorns. There, look, is the Pirelli being replaced on the Mercedes. And of course it's multiple wheel studs here, not a central one, so it's a very long stop for a tyre, but I'd be intrigued to know whether that was as a result of contact or running over something, but that's a very dead tyre, isn't it, that comes off the Mercedes. Quick look to make sure there's nothing in there that's going to cut the tyre. Now look at this for the race lead. The gap is coming down and down and down. Ricardo van der Ende hunting on behind Jan Kisseel. Up to the timing line they come, and it's Kisseel then that leads as they come across the line once more. So the leaders go by. As far as we can work out, it's not a legacy of contact, the Marc Massen puncture. So must have run over something, one fears. The race order then is Kisseel ahead of van der Ende, Dan Mackay in 3rd place, Nicolai Moller Madsen is 4th, Julian Darragh 5th, Reinhard Koffler is in 6th spot, and van der Ende is closing up all the time onto the race leader. Now, is he going to get there before the pit window? With all due deference to Ewan Mackay, Ricardo is more experienced and the quicker, so he'll probably stay out for a bit longer. Jan Kisseel, Max Kobold, pretty evenly matched drivers, so it's going to be a very interesting second stint. And Koffler and Niederhauser, we saw how good they were in race 1. That KTM could still be in the mix, I reckon, come the end of the hour. 35 minutes to go. Reinhard Koffler accelerates now down towards Hawthorns once again. Turns right through the corner. Julian Darragh fending him off. Andy Merrick has dropped back as well, has he not, behind Tom Wood. And I think Merrick has got a problem, because number 33 now we hear is going slowly. So car 33, Andy Merrick's Bullet Racing Mercedes, looks like it's got a problem. The leaders go out of Sterling's with, again, a little bit more of the trench dug by the leader, Jan Kisseel. There is Mackay in 3rd place, and the pit window is about to open. Kisseel will come through and do one more lap, pursued by van der Ende. And those two well clear now of Dan Mackay, who is in 3rd place. Into the pit lane, I think it's coming Moller Madsen. The pit window opens, so time to perfection there. In he comes as the window opens. Also in has come whom? That's Koffler to give way to Niederhauser. And the rest of the field now makes the call as to whether to pit or stay out for another lap or so. But the cars come pouring over the line. Andy Merrick has not gone by. He has got a problem. So driver change. Cedric Freiberghaus gets into the Audi. Patrick Niederhauser gets into the KTM. The bodywork is closed on Niederhauser, whereas Nicolai Moller Madsen crouches down to help Cedric Freiberghaus, graduate of the KTM Cup as it happens. And is there concern at the rear of the KTM? We saw it smoking earlier on, so they're having a good look around it. They've got the time in the 98 seconds that you have to be in the pits for. Cedric Freiberghaus sorts out his belts. The tyres go back on. Got a new tyre that's put on the back of the KTM. So that's the lead battle that you're looking at. Jan Kisseel and Ricardo van der Ende as they come through. Andy Merrick is in the pit lane in the 33 Mercedes, but I think that's with a problem as much as the pit window having opened. There are the two race leaders. Down they come into Clark Curve. Does Kisseel stay out for another lap? Yes. What about van der Ende? Yep, he stays out. So a pit stop costs you a lap, effectively. You can get that back when others pit, but you drop off the lead lap for the moment. Down the pit lane goes Freiberghaus, who will stay ahead, therefore, of Niederhauser. Audi stays ahead of KTM. And there you see Lessen goes through, Darach goes through, and the Tom Wood Aston goes through. Freiberghaus down a lap into the race. Patrick Niederhauser likewise. More into the pits. And let's see how long Jan Kissel stays out for. Replay of Andy Merrick, who's had a puncture as well. It is. 2 cars, both Mercedes, left rear punctures. Interesting. And at the same part of the circuit as well. So Andy Merrick with a punctured tyre, Marc Bosseng with a punctured tyre. Bosseng is back in the race, ready to make the pit stop to do the driver change. Andy Merrick's car is still in the pit lane, so maybe more damage is done on that car. More pit stops cycling through, look. The Schwede Motorsport car there. That's Stephen Patrick on his way into the race then, the Bullet Racing car. The barrel has been reloaded for the Mercedes, but a long way down that car now. Treble 7. That's Dominic Schrammel giving way to Jan Reinig. That's the leading Mercedes from the Leipert squad. And a big lose! Van der Ende in second place has lost it. Round he goes. That's a rare moment, and he's in the boonies on the outside of the road. He's lost control of it. He's avoiding the gravel, so he should be able to rejoin. But Ricardo van der Ende having a big moment. Now, was that on liquid? Because it was a very odd slide, and van der Ende doesn't often do things like that, but that was a real mess, and around he went. So Ricardo van der Ende gets back on track. Place he's lost, but he's still in the race. Was it just a bit too much throttle? A little bit too much speed carried into the corner? Well, van der Ende carries on. Car looks okay. And Jan Kissel now leading by 6 seconds from Dan Mackay. So it's a race of changing fortunes for almost everybody except the race leader, who has remained resolute up front. Back into the race there goes number 35, which the Alpine now is in the hands of Alain Ferte. 31 is the Baschhouten Mindert Van Buren Mercedes, which is still Baschhouten on the back of the lapped number 16 KTM. There it is in a different angle. The BMW, just a long, lazy slide coming through Sheen Curve, and eventually the back overtakes the front. You can see the witness marks on the ground, and van der Ende gets the car off the road. I thought for a moment he was heading for the gravel, but he just avoided that. 15 comes in for its pit stop, so Max Jove takes over from Luc Ibanez. That's the Ginetta that crashed in FP2. Spaniards aboard the car from Leeds, from Garforth. And the race leader on his own now, Jan Kissel. Good stint this has been, starting as he did on the outside of the front row. And again, he mows the lawn on the outside of Sterling's, coming out of the corner, under the bridge, down towards Clearways. Is this going to be a pit stop lap, or will he stay out for one more? It's going to be at least one more for the leader. So Kissel through. Now, where is Dan Mackay? He is coming into view in the background, and the McLaren is also staying out, but Julien Darrat in third place is getting nearer. Tom Wood comes in to give way to Fiona James. They've got themselves into the lead of Pro-Am, incidentally, now. So the cars coming down the pit road. There is Tom Wood. The Academy Motorsports squad goes to work. And there is Fiona James, who will get on board. Tom Wood, graduate of Ginetta Junior Racing. Fiona James, a Ginetta racer in things like Britcar. Away goes number 13, so that's a second stop for the car. Philip Baetke now takes over. Alpine battle, side by side up towards paddock. Very wide goes Alain Ferte, and up on the inside line there goes the 48 Alpine, which is Eric Mouet. Back into the race, 017, that's the street art car. Pascal Bachmann now taking over from Clement Zeiler. They were class winners in the AM Cup in the earlier race. It feels like a long stop, this, for the Fiona James, Tom Wood, Aston Martin. However, 98 seconds is a long time to lap and a bit. So that's the leading car. Jan Kissel then, coming now down through Sterling's, out of the left-hander. And is this an in-lap for Jan Kissel? Let's see, we've only got another 4 minutes to the window, so it's probably only 2 laps at most. Through he comes. He's going to stay out to the bitter end, isn't he, Kissel? Which suggests that the team feels he is quicker than Max Kerbold, and therefore the pace of Kerbold against the opposition is going to be worth watching as Dan Mackay comes into the pit lane from second place. So the leader now gets a completely free ride for a lap. Julien Darrat will go up into second place, but there in the background, look, you see the McLaren coming down the pit road. Fiona James ahead, he's leaving the pits as in comes Daniel Mackay to give way to Benjamin Lessen. So this needs to be a good pit stop. We're talking 1 minute and 38 seconds for a stop. We've had 1 minute and 38.4 for the number 18 Aston Martin, and a 1:38.1 for, who was that? They did a very good time. Matt Cowley taking over. So 98.1 seconds, which is about as good as it can possibly be. Benjamin Lessen gets on board the McLaren, but they're needing to make up effectively 6 seconds, which is quite a margin going into the second stint. It's a shorter stint in the race as well. There, Cedric Freiberghaus, 12 over the timing line, ahead of number 8 BMW, although Ricardo van der Ende is yet to pit, so they're not on the same lap. Don't be confused into thinking that's a fight for position there. So number 1, Cedric Freiberghaus goes through. And while we have the pit stop window open like this, all the shuffling goes on. Stephen Patrick is ahead of the race leader, about to be lapped by Jan Kisiel, who will go past the Bullet Mercedes, or will he, on the outside line. Is he going to come in? Kisiel needs to make the decision. Yeah, switches sides into the pits. So in. Jan Kisiel, race leader. There's the opposition. So now we need to have a look at pit stop times between the number 4 Mercedes and the 14 McLaren, which is yet to be given the signal. Now it can go. There's Cedric Freiberghaus through. As in also comes van der Ende. Now Patrick Niederhauser did a good pit stop, but not as good as in the earlier race. They lost 3 seconds in the pits. Freiberghaus goes through, and where is the best place to the stoppers? We'll see at the end of this next lap, really. I think it's going to be Kofler for the moment, but there is Kisiel. Now, what pit stop time did we get out of the number 14 McLaren? Benjamin Lessen went out at a 99.8. So quicker than did the KTM, but this is the interesting pit stop to see how much time can be won or lost for the Lippert team. So, Jan Kisiel straps in Max Kobold, puts the netting back in place, says good luck, and his job is done. There, Benjamin Lessen then into the McLaren, into his stint a lap earlier, avoids a bit of debris in the road. Quite a bit of debris in the road, in fact, going down towards Hawthorne, but Lessen comes through Hawthorne's now into Westfield. The Lippert guys ready to push back the yellow Mercedes. Julien Darrat is in, as well as Ricardo van der Ende, also into the pit lane. Bashrouten, Matt George, amongst others that we've been looking at in the leading battle. So here is Lessen. Does he come through ahead of, or how close to, the Mercedes? Not very close is the answer, because the Mercedes is away and the McLaren has not yet even come into view. So it looks like it's going to be a monster advantage that Max Kober will have over Benjamin Lessen. There he is, back into the race. And that was 99 seconds, so a good time, comparable to what the McLaren did, but Benjamin Lessen needs to really go for it now, while Max Kobold is getting up to speed and trying to reduce that gap, because there's the McLaren coming out of paddock, into Graham Hill Bend is coming the Mercedes, so it's a very big gap. It was hovering around the 6-second mark before the stops. So there's a very happy Jan Kisiel. Job well done in that first stint. Now what can Max Kobold do for the Polish driver to bring the car home? Benjamin Lessen trying to work his way through the traffic as you look at what is effectively the leading car, Max Kobold. There is behind the traffic jam, which includes now Lessen in second place, Jamie van den Balk third, taking over from Darrat, fourth is Freiberghaus, and fifth is Niederhauser. So second, third, fourth, fifth, very, very close indeed, but the leader has got a virtual 10-second advantage now. So Kobold it is that leads from, in second place, Benjamin Lessen. He's worked his way past Jamie van den Balk. Fourth place is Cedric Freiberghaus, and fifth is Patrick Niederhauser. That's the order. And a replay of how second place changed. That was van den Balk going wide, and Benjamin Lessen nips up the inside, goes through. The two Belgian drivers switching places. Here they come into Clark Curve. Now, Lessen through. Can he do anything to get away from this battle pack and catch Kobold? Let's see what the gap is then. 22 laps in the book, and the gap between the top two is 9.5 seconds. So how is that going to be affected over the next part of the stint? Max Kobold is good. Is he as good as Benjamin Lessen? Let's see. Through Druids goes 007 there, which is the car in the hands of Jamie van den Balk. Can he replicate the same sort of pace that was was being offered up by Julien Darrat, and then in fourth it's Fredrik Freiberghaus, and fifth is Patrick Niederhauser. More and more drivers now being warned about track limits as we get to the pointy end of the race, and Freiberghaus gets up the inside of Van der Belt. No, he does not. Niederhauser tries the outside line, looks for the cutback coming on the Grand Prix loop, but again, even he can't make it work there. They make the run now on towards Hawthorne. Cedric Freiberghaus goes to the outside line. Patrick Niederhauser thinks, right, okay, you sort yourselves out, I'll pick up the pieces here. But round the outside goes Freiberghaus with a very brave move. Picks up the place going through Hawthorne, and now, because he's off his stride, under attack is Jamie Van der Belt, because Patrick Niederhauser is crawling all over him. Freiberghaus getting away. I fear that Van der Belt is going to drop back in this group now. It looks like he's struggling for pace, doesn't it? In the sectors, Lesen quicker than the leader in sector 1. He's just got to the end of sector 2 and he's slower. So Kerbolt maybe now getting himself into a rhythm. There's a stop-go penalty for car number 11 of Lisette Brahms for being too short on the pit stop. The pit stop was 97 seconds, not 98. So a stop-go will come for the McLaren. Leaders go by. Kerbolt leading by 10 seconds then. So that means the gap has gone up. 10.1 at the end of that next lap. But can Benjamin Lesen do anything at all about it before the very end? Reinhard Koffler has done the fastest lap of the race. And Koffler is on the back, or hit that car, Niederhauser at the wheel of it, is on the back of Jamie Van der Belt as they come down the hill. Lots of dust is settling at paddock as somebody has run wide but has got out of the gravel. And Lesen, I would offer you now, is being caught by Freiberghaus. Niederhauser thinks about getting past Jamie Van der Belt. Can't find a way through on the inside going into Surtees. Van der Belt, experienced peddler from things like GT4 as well as TCR. But Patrick Niederhauser gone as far as GP2 as a single-seater gun. Very, very quick, very competitive driver indeed. We've seen him in Lamborghini Super Trofeo as well as Blancpain GT Series Asia, you name it. And Niederhauser, the Swiss driver, comes now out of Hawthorne up towards the right-hander of Westfield. And there is the recovering Florian Thomas in the Aston Martin that was delayed early on with the spin and the drive-through. And he has got himself on the back now of the number 22 Porsche that goes through with the Austrian Konstantin Schürrle just being able to fend him off. Down the hill they come. This fight is currently for 15th place. Number 30, which is Jean Glorieux, who's raced around here in Carrera Cup GB in the past. Other battles to look for. There's second place. Benjamin Lesen being chased by Cedric Freiberghaus, and the leading gap is now 10.5 seconds. It's going up and up and up and up. So Lesen needs Freiberghaus to go away, which is unlikely, or a safety car to bring him into the game once more. But at the moment, Kerbolt has got away. Number 12 BMW runs really wide to get out of the way of the quicker cars. That's Levent Kovacic getting out of the way of the drivers that need to be lapping him. Van der Belt gets past as well and almost forces the BMW out too wide. And then, look, Van der Belt has to cut across and try and defend once more from Niederhauser, who tries wide into Surtees. He wants to be tight out of the corner if he can. I think he might get it this time. Let's see. Does he get the undercut? He tries. But look, so much more power does the Aston have. Niederhauser can't make a move there. Through Pilgrim's Drop into Hawthorne they come. Through the right-hander up towards Westfield. Meantime, there, Stephen Patrick about to be lapped by Benjamin Lesen. He has got Cedric Freiberghaus behind him as they come up through the approach to Westfield and then onto Sheen Curve. Out to the left-hander goes 007, Jamie Van der Belt coming under attack now. Benjamin Lesen is still stuck behind Stephen Patrick here. The Mercedes being lapped, but Lesen can't find a way past him, and he's also having to defend from Freiberghaus. So Benjamin Lesen goes for the inside line. Stephen Patrick hopefully will be getting the message over the radio. Let them go, and he does now. So Lesen and Freiberghaus go through. Cedric breaks late going into Paddock Hill Bend, but the leading gap is up yet further to 11.7 seconds, and there goes Niederhauser up the inside to get past Van der Belt for fourth place, and he's done the job. Good move coming out of Paddock into Druids. Reinhard Koffler is all smiles, so it's Hans Reiter standing ahead of him. And as the field comes out of Graham Hill Bend, I think I said early on in the race that the KTM, even with that grid drop, could still be a factor for the podium. Well, here's more evidence of it. Niederhauser gets up past Stephen Patrick to lap the Bullet Racing Merc. So does Jamie van der Belt as well. But Niederhauser for the top 3 is a real possibility. It won't be a race winner unless the leading Mercedes strikes trouble. I think Kerbolt's too far up the road. But a very, very good drive being put in by both Reinhard Koffler and now Patrick Niederhauser. Car number 35 is Alain Ferté, who is currently leading the Pro-Am competition along with Grégoire de Moustier. Alain Ferté, who's raced most things, didn't get a Formula 1, but was a Formula 3000 driver, touring car racer, Group C driver, Tourist Trophy winner. It's perhaps the biggest win he had in Britain, sharing with Andy Rouse. But he comes now down through the right-hander of Hawthorne. After that, he went off to race Sierra Cosmos in the French Touring Car Championship. But that was his day of days as a touring car driver, the 1988 Tourist Trophy, when the Rouse Caliber Sierras took over after Dick Johnson's visiting Australian Sierras were so quick early on and then broke. And Andy Rouse and Alain Ferté saw off the Eggenberger cars to come through to win the 3-hour Tourist Trophy. So Alain Ferté in 11th place overall, leading Pro-Am. This is 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Lesen, Freiberghaus and Niederhauser. And a spin, that's Stephen Patrick getting it all wrong. Coming out of paddock, wide goes Patrick Niederhauser. And Stephen Patrick there is about to get himself back onto the tarmac, which he does, and away he will go. There are more drive-through penalties coming, one of which is for number 12, Ibrahim Okyay, and the other is for number 14, the 2nd place McLaren for track limit abuse. So Benjamin Lesen is being given a drive-through penalty for exceeding track limits. So that's another place about to be gained by the KTM. Reinhard Koffler looking on, but Benjamin Lesen, who is running in 2nd place, is being given a drive-through, number 14, for track limit abuse. So at Brands Hatch, it's not just down to the human eye, because there are pressure pads which take a photograph of the car if it is putting all 4 wheels in the wrong place, and that really is incontrovertible. It's not relying on a marshal to do it. It is telling you that there's a car off at Clark Curve, come to that in a moment. It's telling you that you have contravened. It's 71 BMW, the Tresoldi and Meloni BMW. Paolo Meloni is in the gravel. Benjamin Lesen comes in to serve the drive-through. Now, is this going to be a safety car to get the BMW out of harm's way? Can they cover it under a yellow flag? Let's see what happens. If we were to go safety car, this would really change the complexion of the race as Niederhauser closes right up onto the back of Cedric Freiberghaus going through paddock. Both cars quivering, they're right on the edge. 13 seconds is the lead gap. Jamie van der Belt is back in the house as well, looking 4th place, catching up to the KTM. The snatch vehicle has arrived on the scene to get the BMW out of the way, and 2nd, 3rd and 4th come onto Cooper Straight now together. Into Surtees they go. Cedric Freiberghaus trying to keep at bay the number 16 KTM, but I think it's going to change, isn't it? The pace that Niederhauser seems to have. There's another track limit penalty going the way of Konstantin Schürrle for track limit abuse. But Benjamin Lesen serves the penalty, and let's see where he has dropped to at the end of the next lap. He was 9th when he came over the timing line in the pit lane. He may have lost even more. So the race order, it is still Max Kerbolt away and gone up front. A great opening stint by Jan Kissel, putting them now with a margin of 13 seconds. There is the BMW, still trying to be extricated. The wipers are on, but it's still stuck in the gravel. The yellow lights flash on the way down to Clark Curve. And the battle on for 2nd place means that the drivers are not being able, of course, to go after the race leader. The BM is being dragged out of the way. It actually has come to rest almost at the vehicle access point, so they're trying to scoop it out of the way as quickly as. Yellow flags wave, and Kerbolt to Freiberghaus then now is 14 seconds. Max Kerbolt is driving away. Cedric Freiberghaus being delayed by having to defend. And here he is from Patrick Niederhauser, who again tries to line up the move going into Druids. Turns through the hairpin, back on the power coming out of the corner. The Audi R8 GT4 ahead of the KTM Crossbow. Still a quirky looking car, but it's an effective one as we saw in race 1, and with 2 good drivers behind the wheel, what can now develop for Niederhauser? There's a gap on the inside, but he wasn't really close enough to take advantage of that as they got to the turning point for the corner. In 5th place, David Griesner in the Aston Martin. 6th is Mindert Van Buren. 7th from the very back of the grid, Mads Siljehout taking over from Phil Hill in the KTM. 8th is Ewan Mackay. 9th is Koen Bogarts. And 10th after the drive-through is Benjamin Lessen. So can Patrick Niederhauser make a move? Let's see. He's running out of time, but Niederhauser, one of the more experienced drivers on the grid. Reinhard Koffer in the overalls looking on, the man that runs the car. Hans Reiter standing at the front of the garage. Reiter Engineering under the True Racing banner. And now Niederhauser has a look on the inside. Cedric Freiberghaus fends him off. Does he go deep into the corner? He does. The gap is wide open on the outside line. Patrick Niederhauser will challenge. He won't go round the outside. He needs to cut across and get the inside line coming out of Clark Curve. Can he do it? Yes, he can. Has he got the grunt in a straight line? The Audi just with its nose in front. Here comes Niederhauser on the inside line, but he loses out. But the KTM is all breathless against the Audi. So he loses the opportunity. By the time they get to the end of the pit straight, the Audi is back in front, it's taken the line, and Niederhauser makes another go coming out of Druids. He's got the inside line up towards the hairpin, out of paddock into Druids, through he goes, deep he goes, wide he goes, up one, down one. Back into 2nd place goes Freiberghaus. Niederhauser falls back into 3rd, but he had to do something. He was lucky that Vandenbelt didn't get past him as well in the Aston. So we'll try again, says Niederhauser. He's shown intent into Surtees, no gap there. So Patrick Niederhauser, oh so briefly 2nd. Freiberghaus is sideways through the corner. Niederhauser again tries to pull up alongside, but the last thing the KTM needs is another long straight, because it just doesn't have the straight line speed, doesn't have the power, doesn't have the grunt of everything else around it. It's great on the brakes, great through the twiddly bits. Westfield could be an opportunity. Niederhauser moves to the inside line. Freiberghaus covers that off. Out of Westfield, another tightened line out of the corner. Niederhauser again tries, but he can't do it on the climb up the hill. Into Sheen Curve they come now towards Sterling's. Is this an opportunity for Niederhauser? Again, he tries to force the issue on the inside, make an error perhaps come from Freiberghaus. Cedric Freiberghaus, though, he's doing a good job hanging onto the place. Down they dive. And now, just to make life even more awkward for Patrick Niederhauser, he's got Jamie Vandenbelt right up behind him, and they're all being caught by David Griesner in his Aston Martin. So Audi, KTM, Aston, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th over the line. 11 minutes to go. And Max Kobold is very nearly at Paul Ricard, where the next rounds are to be held. So far ahead is he, because that is a monster margin of 14 seconds now from Jan Kishiel and Max Kobold that have basically dominated the race. They've led from the very word go. For 2nd place, though, Cedric Freiberghaus is still fending off Patrick Niederhauser, but only just. And now the run along Cooper Straight, heading into the left-hander at Surtees. There's more back markerage ahead for number 1, Cedric Freiberghaus, to have to worry about. There's an Alpine, there's an Aston Martin. Big flash of the lights from Freiberghaus. I am coming, he says. I am 2nd, and I need to get past you with minimum fuss, please. Turning into Hawthorne then. There is Freiberghaus reeling in the slower car. Patrick Niederhauser is behind. Cedric Freiberghaus goes to the inside line. So through also, I think that's Pascal Bachmann they're putting a lap on, goes Patrick Niederhauser. Place gained, on-track position gained. And that actually now means that the 2 Astons of Vandenbelt and Griesner have got themselves together. David Griesner right on the back, as Niederhauser again tries to dive up the inside. Cedric Freiberghaus is doing a very good job of defending here, you've got to say. Down they come into clearways. Vandenbelt goes to the outside of the Alpine, which he's trying to keep out of the way. Yeah, through goes Vandenbelt. And now David Griesner comes up to have a go round the outside. And David Griesner struggling to get past the Alpine, whereas nobody does it better than 007, seemingly. Jamie Vandenbelt made that look pretty easy in the traffic. Through he goes. And there, off the road, is 31. Now, that was the Mercedes that Bas Schouten was behind the wheel of. That's coming up towards Westfield. So, there's 2nd and 3rd. 4th, yes, there for your eyes only, 007 it is. Jamie Vandenbelt fending off David Griesner. He arrives in shot. And along Cooper Straight once again towards Surtees. Now, Cedric Freiberghaus hanging on to that 2nd place. The lead gap, an absolute whopper. 15 seconds now. Max Kobold is away and gone. Jamie van der Balk in the 007 Aston still presses on to try and close onto the back of number 16 there of Patrick Niederhauser. And through the traffic goes the car of David Griesner. Now there, look, is Jamie van der Balk through. David Griesner is behind him as they go in towards Sterling's. And the gap between the two Aston Martins at the start of this lap, 8/10, but it looks a little bit less than that. So van der Balk in 007 has got this spectre of Griesner getting closer and closer now as they come into the left-hander of Clearways. Up towards the end of the lap, nose to tail for second place, as van der Balk inches up as well onto the tail of them. Through he goes. And the gap now, second to third is 3/10, third to fourth is 4/10 of a second. Hard on the brakes, through the hairpin. I just thought for a moment that Freiburg House was going to go a little bit deep into the corner there. Niederhauser certainly is closer as they come now down towards the left-hander of Graham Hill Bend. Van der Balk actually losing out on the straight line. Brakes hard for Surtees, onto the Grand Prix loop once more. Niederhauser hard at work still. 7 more minutes of the race remain. There's another drive through. It's for number 19 this time, which is David Griesner in 5th place for track limit abuse. So the car in 5th is now going to be given a drive through. Benjamin Lessen, after his incidentally, is up into 8th spot, but he'll gain another place, of course, with this drive through for the car further up the road of Griesner. And is the safety car about to be deployed? Yes, it is! The safety car, with 7 minutes to go, has just been deployed. Safety car will come out on track then. We've got this far, and then the safety car is not on track yet, but the boards are there, everyone slows right down, and the safety car is on track. And Max Kurbolt's advantage is about to disappear. Over the line he comes. The safety car is deployed not from pit out, but from midway along Cooper Straight, so it will in a moment be released, ready to pick up number 4. Now the reason for the safety car might be the number 31 Mercedes over on the far side of the circuit. Might be for something else we've not yet picked up on. The Indy circuit looks clear enough. I think it was only the yellow zone coming out of Westfield and Hawthorne, but the safety car is required. So that was the only other incident that, unless there's some debris on the road, that the race director wants moving. But Mercedes is out of harm's way. Safety car deployed. The field will bunch up. But the good news is, for the leader, Max Kurbolt, that there is, of course, the cushion of a back marker between him and anybody else. And all, oh dear, yeah, because the field is rather strung out now, there's a wave of cars going very, very slowly that's not going to catch the safety car. The KTM of Mads Siljehaug, I think, that's admittedly responded to the boards and slowed down, but he's about 2/3 of a lap behind. So as the leaders are all bunching up over there at Hawthorne, there's another wave of slow cars going into Paddock Hill Bend that are never going to catch up unless the instruction is given, speed up, go and catch the queue. So through they turn, and we've got 5 minutes to go. 007 goes out of Westfield then. So 007 of Jamie van der Balk. Now David Griesner behind, remember, has got to serve this drive-through penalty, so therefore should drop away. But should make the pressure on 007 lighter as they come out of Sterling's. So through Clark Curve they come, and with 33 laps in the book, 4 minutes to go, I just wonder whether he's going to get another racing lap in. David Griesner has not yet served this drive-through penalty, which he needs to get on with, I'm afraid, otherwise it'll be converted to a 30-second time penalty, and with people bunched up under the safety car, it's going to be rather more costly. So the leaders come through. So what was a 15-second advantage last time, Kurbolt to Freiburg House, with the safety car out, 15 seconds becomes 1.9. But if it's no racing laps, it all becomes immaterial anyway, I guess. So the cars turn up towards Druids. Jamie van der Balk running in 4th place, still his target, Patrick Niederhauser. Everybody else playing catch-up here, storming along behind, but still trying to work out why the safety car has been deployed, because the road, as far as I can see, is now clear. There was nothing in an awkward place, but clearly the race director found something that he didn't like. Maybe it's this rather complicated operation to get the Mercedes out of harm's way, and you can't really have the race carrying on while the tractor is on the road like that, or close to the edge of the road. So the safety car on track, up towards Surtees, but everyone working as quickly as they can to get the situation cleared up. Max Kobold thinking, don't restart, this is great for me, I've got to win here. Right, that I think is the reason for the safety car being out. They needed to get that car moved, and they couldn't have the race live with that snatch vehicle toing and froing close to the edge of the circuit. So the safety car is slowing everybody down, trying to make this the last pass and then dive into the pit lane, possibly, which will give you 2.5 minutes again, 2.5 minutes to go for racing. Had I told you that number 19 had got a drive through? Yes, that's David Griesner. He's not served it. Snatch vehicle has snatched. Now it needs to drive. And it does, off the road. So hopefully once they've gone past that zone this time, we'll go green, and that should just about give us 2 racing laps at the very end. Looking for the lights to go out, fingers crossed it'll come this time. The safety car is indeed coming in this time, so we will go back racing. And what have we got as a flying lap? 1.5 minutes. It could just be 1 more lap to go, actually, because they're not going to get to the timing line in 20 seconds, so it's going to be a 1-lap shootout, isn't it, to the very end? Jamie van den Balk there in 007, looking to try to gain places. He's also got to be wary of cars behind him that might mug him, which he doesn't want, otherwise the sky falls in for that car. He's going to lose place after place after place, so down through Stirling's they come. Scare the living daylights out of him, potentially. So here they come, up towards the completion of the safety car lap. 1 racing lap to go. Into Clearways, into Clark Curve they come. And away they go. So Max Kobold with that back marker, 2 back markers between him and Cedric Freiberghaus. He should still be good to preserve the lead, I would have thought. But what about Freiberghaus versus Niederhauser, who is going to come out on top of 2nd place? It's the 1-lap dash down towards Clark, to Paddock they go, rather. And there Freiberghaus covers off the move of Niederhauser, but he's got to get through the traffic yet as well. Niederhauser goes up the curbs. And hard on the brakes, they turn their way around Druids. Jamie van den Balk in the Aston Martin trying to go with them as they drop downhill now into Graham Hill Bend. But Kobold is away and gone as everybody else has to wriggle through the traffic. Max Kobold, and you can argue that's justifiable given the way that they have gone, both Kobold and Jan Kissel. He's away leading the race through Surtees and onto the Grand Prix loop. But Freiberghaus and Niederhauser are still at war. Then you've got 007 van der Balk ahead of Mads Siljehout because David Griesner has now taken that drive through. And here comes Cedric Freiberghaus trying to get past the Porsche ahead of him. Goes for the inside line. It's a lapped Cayman, that. Great looking car, but it's lost a lap, I'm afraid, early on in the race. The GT4 Club Sport 718 Cayman will go now behind Patrick Niederhauser. And what about Jamie van der Balk? He's got now Mads Siljehout right behind him. Siljehout started on the 17th row of the grid. He started 33rd on the grid, and he's looking to try to gain a place as there Van den Balk elbows his way through the traffic. The Porsche swatted aside. Mads Siljehout in the KTM gets through as well, and now tries to find a way past on the run in towards the final corner, Clark Curve. It is going to be a win in the 2nd GT4 European Series race of the weekend to Max Kobold and Jan Kissel. For 2nd place, they are nose to tail. Kobold and Kissel win. It's Freiberghaus 2nd, just ahead of Patrick Niederhauser. And for 4th place, Jamie van den Balk fends off the challenger, Mads Siljehout. 6th is everybody else pouring over the line, with Ewan Mackay just ahead of Benjamin Lassen. Koen Bogarts is 8th. 9th is Alain Ferte to win his class. And 10th, Florian Thomas. And still they pour across the line at the end of a great race. Lots of drama going on all the way through. And that last safety car period was not the end of the drama, because in the gravel is 48, which was on target for a podium in the AM Cup. And on the last lap, Eric Mouet has binned it. Now, where is that? Is that coming? It was coming out of Surtees, isn't it? On the climb onto the Grand Prix circuit. So out of the podium for the AM Cup, number 48, sadly. So that car was going well earlier, but comes to grief right at the very end. Alain Ferté and Grégoire de Moustier win in Pro-Am, and the Am winners, again, Pascal Bachmann and Clément Seiler. 2 out of 2 for them, which is an excellent result. And the drivers then now come through the back door of the pits. Eric Mouet has a bit of explaining to do there. So a quick rattle through the results to see Cedric Freiberghaus and Nikolai Müller-Madsen the winners, from Reinhard Koffler and Patrick Niederhauser, and the Kissel Cobalt winning Mercedes from Cedric Freiberghaus and Nikolai Müller-Madsen. Forgive me, Reinhard Koffler and Patrick Niederhauser third, ahead of Julien Darrat and Jamie van den Belt. Mads Sillyhaugen, Phil Hill fifth from the very back of the grid, and sixth, Ewan Mackay and Ricardo van der Ende. All the way through the race, plenty of shuffling to confirm the Silver Cup won by the overall winners, Max Cobalt and Jan Kissel. The Pro-Am competition won by Alain Ferté and Grégoire de Moustier, and the Ams, Pascal Bachmann and Clément Seiler for the second time today. So lively racing. Next stop for the GT4 European Series will be at Paul Ricard, the end of May, first weekend of June, and many of the teams with a little bit of work to be done. But from Brands Hatch, we've had some great racing this weekend, plenty of action, and thanks for your company. From David Addison, for now, it's goodbye.